G'day there, Cygnets and Swanlings. 2012 Premiership player Nick Smith here. It's my pleasure, as always, to introduce a bevy of bloods, a fan podcast of the Sydney Swans Football Club, brought to you by Noddy and Stevo, a pair of red and white tragics. So pop on the kettle and settle in as the boys had an in-depth chat about the Swans' last game, the Swans' next game, and a little bit about footy too. This is Nick Smith signing off until next week's episode. But in the meantime, remember, be good to your bloods and they'll be good to you.
Welcome back to A Bevy of Bloods. My name's Noddy and I'm joined again by my regular co-host Chris. How are you going, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. It's great to be here after a big win against Freo. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing really, really well, mate. In this episode number 47, we'll be chatting about the monumental Round 18 win against the Dockers, as well a bit about the upcoming game against the Crows. So fluff up your tail feathers and settle in for a potentially biased yarn about all things to do with our beloved Bloods. Last Saturday evening, our Sydney Swans defeated the Fremantle Dockers by 17 points, with us scoring 11-16-82 to their 9-11-65. Okay, mate, first impressions, what do you think of that?
That was the most entertaining technical game I've seen for quite some time. The way we went out there playing our style of game, they just seemed to feed entirely into the Dockers' plan, us diving with pressure, them just moving the ball to the outside and us being a bit helpless. And then they got inside 50s on the regular and scored pretty well off it. And we just fed into their plan. At quarter time, the adjustment we made was clear as day. Plan B was initiated and kicked off and run perfectly well by 100% of the players. And I think that's the biggest takeaway about that. We'll go through some stats in a bit, but it was just perfect. At quarter time, first quarter time, we came out, changed our game plan altogether with, and at halftime, it was a totally different Swans outfit, and the game was ours for taking. And yeah, if we could kick a bit straighter, I think the game would have been a bit more relaxed, especially in that second quarter where we really struggled to put as much pressure on that board as we initially wanted to in the first part of that second quarter. But all in all, mate, fantastic. Young players getting it done. Our second string players really, really showing up. So Stevens, Fox, those fellas were just doing great stuff around the ground. And yeah, all in all, a great effort, mate. What about you? What did you take away from first impressions of the game?
Mate, it was quite hostile and it was a very tense finals-like feeling. I was very nervous and I actually I've got the same points as you, so I'm not going to bother going through it, mate. It was just a fantastic win and it was awesome to see. Obviously, there were times when I thought maybe they were going to run away, but we came back and we just, did everything you just said. So, it was an amazing. I think it was our best win of the year. Obviously, we beat the D's, but I thought the Dockers, the way they're playing at their home, on their home deck, at this point of the season, I think this is talking about sliding doors moments with the Bombers game a couple of weeks ago. This one is the flip side of that. This really, and all of a sudden, so the Swans are in the media. The Swans are getting a write-up. Everyone's backing us in now. I wish they'd just do what they normally do and let us fly under the radar. But, I am very, very happy with how the team went and obviously with the results. So how about key takeaways and stats, mate, if you can kick off with either or there?
Yeah, just exactly as you were saying, we both alluded to, the control of the game was on our side. It just made all the difference altogether with just a fantastic effort by the coaches and the team to execute. So the biggest one noticed would be like plus 59 marks. That's massive. Like that is true control of the game, dominated control of it. And that was that huge change that occurred from the second quarter onwards. It just seemed that once we started taking on more possession, we had way more control of the game. Freo plays that zone defense, and so they're always potentially a couple steps behind some of their boys and some of their markers, and it just seemed that we could just drop that ball in front of our players, and we just continued to propel it forward and get those inside 50s and drive on it. If we could kick straighter, like I said, we would have done a better job of it, but all in all, it was okay. At halftime, after halftime rather, we were plus 31 in +23 in the third quarter with marks and +28 in the fourth quarter in marks. So that was progressively massive change to take control of the game in that second half. It was just a beautiful thing to see. And I guess one of the things that I wanted to bring up as well in key takeaways and stats for this week is also perhaps a little bit of a negative. In our ruck contest was pretty ordinary. So Darcy, who is a good ruckman, was entirely dominant for the game. He won 67% of his hitouts. So that's 2 in every 3 hitouts were won by him. And if you look at the numbers for any other given week, you're looking at about 30 to 40% of the ruckmen. They're going to be winning if they're doing a good job. Anything over 40, like they're becoming a bit dominant. So that's, roughly about half of them, they're guaranteed to win. And there's a big portion of them that are going to be like a tie and they've got no contest between them. 67%, mate, that's huge. It's 7 in 10, right? So that's really dominant. That's been a few weeks. We've seen something similar to those numbers, and Hickey last, I think, 3 games has not been the Hickey of old in that space. So that's just something to consider. But all in all, that's a small mark because we did end up getting a lot out of those clearances anyway, but something to consider as well. What about yourself? Key takeaways and stats? What have you got on your side?
Oh, yeah, no, just backing up yours, mate, like the 138 marks we took, that was our highest tally for the year and fourth most of any team. I think in the second or the third quarter, we had like almost 50 marks and we average about just over 80. So it's pretty incredible, the switch in tactics there and obviously the execution to be able to pull that off as well as something to behold. So I'll just back up your point there because that was really, obviously, yeah, just with all that happening, we're really getting ascendancy. We had we had more inside 50s. Yeah, it was just that accuracy as well that wasn't allowing us to take the pressure off. But I've got a perfect key takeaway here as summarised by superfan Jules McFly. So I'm just going to read this out because it was so brilliant. Jules says, for me, it was the 3 C's. Coaching, often picked on by the fans for having no plan B. This game was a masterclass in game style, adjustment and strategy. It takes the players to execute, but this win was built on the tactical switches from the brains trust. Next C, Chad. We've been blessed with extremely strong midfielders under Horse's reign, but have we ever had one with so much X factor? You can't take your eyes off him, and not just because of the pineapple hair. Scintillating and plays without fear of failure. Third C, consistency. This is the first time we've registered back-to-back wins since the bye. When we're good, we can beat the best, but we need to be consistent, or it will be all for nothing. And Steve-O backs that up as well, obviously making the point that we've beaten 3 of the current top 4. So really at our best, we can push anyone and so should be able to go deep into the finals, but it's just the consistency piece. The other point that Steve-O would make is that with all these games that Warner's stringing together now, you'd have to expect that opposition teams are going to be doing a bit of homework on him. And, he's only a 21-year-old, only 30 games, 31 or whatever it is. And so probably is going to need some protecting from his teammates in the likes of Mills, Rowe, Kennedy, Parker, whoever, just in case he does get a tag. Something tells me he'd, it depends if they get under his skin. Obviously, he's that kind of player that plays with flair and passion. So we just have to see how he goes. But yeah. We're going to talk about him later, obviously, because what a game. All right, so let's just recap. We are now coming 6th, so up from 7th. We're on 11 wins, 6 losses, 120.8%. We're about the same. We're 120.5 going into that game. So we're just ahead, just behind Collingwood and ahead of Carlton and Richmond. Obviously, Carlton dropped down there with that loss against Geelong, and Richmond as well. They got beaten by North Melbourne, right? That was this week.
That was this week.
I'm trying to remember. Oh, this week just gone. So shout out there to the Tigers. Anyway, so yeah, there's 5 games remaining, and we're going to need at least 2 more wins. So we are sitting pretty well. And all the media has made note of that. So of course they've, put the malls on us. But of the top, the top 8 teams, our run is looking comparatively nicer. But as Horse likes to give everyone a reality check every single week. Anyone can beat anyone on any given day. So regardless of the run home and the teams we're playing and where they sit, it shouldn't matter. It's going to be a tough run home, so we've really got to stay focused. So. All right, mate.
As you said, mate, like that, the whole media is just jumping on us now. Like it's apparently the Swans are favourites all of a sudden, and even Riley, what's his name, Riley Beveridge, has mentioned that he's even got us coming down for second by the end of the season. So like they're all jumping on. They're all excited because we've beaten Freo, but like you said, we've beaten 3 of the 4 now. And the Cats, who are the team in form that everyone's kind of got as favourite right now, we've also beaten them earlier in the year. So there's a lot to be said about the consistency, just as the brain trusts have made super clear. But let's see the next few weeks, Adelaide, GWS, North. Those are 3 games we should win. Let's see how we go. Hopefully.
I'll just on your point to Riley, Riley Beveridge, I will mention that, Geelong, as you're saying, is the form team. Geelong and Melbourne, they're the 2 that have jumped ahead. So if we're to finish second, we definitely have to win all 5. And then those teams would probably have to drop a game or 2 along the way. So I'll just very quickly look at their games. So Geelong are playing Port away, Dogs at home, Saints at home, Suns away, and then the Eagles at home. So that's a fairly nice run as well. Melbourne have the Dogs at Marvel, Dockers away, the Pies at the MCG, Blues at the MCG, and then the Lions at Gabba. So that's a slightly harder.
Really tough. That is a really tough run.
So and then of course there's Brisbane and Freo, but I'm not going to go with it. But basically there's 2 games separating us and probably as low as 7th, I think, us and first. So, if we pick up these games and they drop a few, then it's possible we could go as high as second. But I'm certainly not looking at that. I think optimistically, if we can play like we did against, as we have been in the past couple of weeks and keep that consistency, then we could certainly have a shot at the top 4. But I don't think we should get ahead of ourselves because
top 4 the way. I think top 4 is really the goal. We've spoken about it. That's kind of where our mind was sitting at after game 6 from memory. We've dropped our expectations. We're looking at top 8, top 6, and now we're back at top 4 again. So it's just been a nice roller coaster of a year. And consistency is the one that's hurt us along the way, but it is what it is. So finish off strong, I guess. There's if we're peaking at the right time anyway.
I don't know. I have to go through and look at every single game, but I've got this weird feeling that we've been dropping games. Not weird feeling, but this is my recollection of how the year's played out. We dropped the games we're meant to win.
Oh yeah.
And so if we've got like 3 or 4 games coming up with teams we should beat, I'm nervous. So about even dropping out of the 8. So I would rather take that conservative approach and hope that we can string these consistent performances together, and then off the back of that, as Horst likes to say, that stuff tends to take care of itself.
I think I do recall us at the beginning of the year saying top 6 would be nice.
I said 6. I said 6th. I think. Yeah.
And I think I said top 8. I'm happy with, but top 6 is kind of where we're at our eyes, and I think we're on par for that. So, all in all, I'm pretty happy to where we stand right now in the season, especially considering how close the season's been and how good the teams have been and the quality of football that's been played, and the style of football has all been different and fantastic. And so the next few games, the next 3 games, I think, are just telling that we've got to nail those games with teams we're meant to beat. We've got to beat them. We've got to find a way to dig deep and know that these aren't throwaway games. Every game's important, and as you lead in the finals, once you get in the finals, anything can happen. The Bulldogs showed that 2016. Just got to get in and work it out from there.
Definitely, mate. Fingers crossed. All right. So what were your favourite moments of the game, mate? It was a very exciting game.
It was a really exciting game. So the 2 goals that just are burnt into my memory that I'm never going to forget, alongside the Buddy goal when he was running down the line at Adelaide Oval and kicked that goal that I was at. The Gordon goal from the pocket, right on the line, running away for firstly, great composure by the whole team and putting loads of pressure on the players, on the Freo there. Spill the ball, Warner's beautiful pickup, and just the wherewithal to find the loose man on the outside, and then Goulden just kicking the most beautiful kick. As soon as he left his boot too, he was damn well confident. He knew he struck that perfectly, and that was just superb. Like that was goal of the week easily. That's just a beautiful goal.
Oh man, talk about Iceman. In Goulden we trust. What?
Seriously. The tougher the game, the better he is. Like it's weird. And he turned 20 this week. He turned 20. He's a baby. What were you doing? You're 20, Noddy.
Oh, mate.
Sure as hell not playing for the Swans and kicking goals from the corner, mate. I'll tell you that much. I didn't know you when you were 20, but I'm pretty confident I didn't see you on the news.
No, I wasn't doing that, mate. I was doing some other dumb shit.
The other goal that was just superb was Warner's goal.
That was really good.
30-ish out from a contest and picked up the ball from the ground and just punted on his boot, and it just swelled in the air and made its way through, snuck its way through. And that was a really, really, really tidy goal. Just great. I loved it. That was super special, mate. I just loved them both. They were the best moments of the game. What about you? What did you have?
Yeah, just off the back of your last one there, actually I'm going to take two other moments from the guys you've already spoken about. Warner's strength to shrug off the tacklers that he did through it, like to tackle like the likes of Mundy and Fife, but also throw off, guys bigger than him. He just seems so strong, and so that was really cool to see. And Goulden's lace out kick to Wilbur, and then Wilbur kicked that snap. To sort of get us going again, and I just thought that just the precision of Goulden's kick to him at that position was just it was a sight. It was just unbelievable. It was just, as you said, he's just turned 20 and he's doing that sort of stuff. So, unbelievable. All right, mate. Well, I love how concise we were with favourite moments there. I think we're all just wrapped up in the joy of beating the Dockers away, and there were so many moments. And, we're obviously everyone's going to have their favourite, but, that was just a great all-round win. So up next, mate, we're going to be talking about the ABOB medal, which is our equivalent of the Bob Skilton medal. The Bevies' best bloods this week in 3-2-1 points order were Chad Warner, Errol Goulden, and Cal Mills. 3-2-1. You want to kick us off with Chad, mate?
Yeah, look, we spoke about the favourite moments, and we spoke about Goulden and Warner, and of course 1 and 2 on the Bevy ABOB medal. Chad, another 3 points, another consistent game. Not even consistent, just a unbelievable elite game. They brought up a stat during the game. There was like Bontempelli and Petrarca were the only ones that kind of come across I've forgotten the exact stats, but they were the only ones that were categorized as elite in those fields. Do you remember that one?
Yeah. It was like score involvements, goals, and something
else.
Yeah, I'll try and. I took a screenshot of
him. He's in that company. We spoke about it last week. That all of us, the VFL media, is all over him. They're loving the kid, and so now he is going to get tagged. He is no doubt going to have somebody sitting on him next week to just slow him down. The good news is that we do have players around him that have been doing the quality of football for quite some time in Mills and Parker and even Rowie of recent. More of a defensive role, of course, but they still have it in them. And so we've always got Papley to throw into the mix as well if we're struggling a little bit with offensive unit if they do start tagging him. But all in all, he's got a great head on him. He knows what his role in it is. He knows that he's got a powerful run and he's got the skill sets and good tackles, and he's doing everything. And he's getting progressively better every week, mate. Like Brady said, Warner is the future of the team, and I think we can all agree that that's exactly the way. Losing Hewitt was massive. We needed a big body. We needed someone else in there, and we're all really concerned at the beginning of the season, but it looks like we seem to have found another one. And just as Jules said, it just the ability for the team to find just brilliant mids continues, and we're kind of blessed with it. So, what are the stats, mate? Tell us the stats. They're all brilliant.
7 clearances, best on ground. 35 disposals, best on ground. 800 metres gained, best on ground. 6 inside 50s, best on ground. 1 goal. 1 behind, 11 score involvements, best on ground. I mean, I think everyone's saying 3 Brownlow points for that one. A lot of Swans fans have got their own running tally, and they've got him. Some have got him ahead of Mills, others have got Mills ahead. But yeah, like clearly amazing. I'm going to reference someone I can only imagine is a massive Swans fan as well, from Facebook. I saw on one of the chats, Nathan James King. So big shout out to you, mate. This is really cool stuff that you've done. He says, did some digging for a question in the comments asking if Warner is a better player than Dusty at the same point in his career. See for yourselves. All numbers are averages for their respective second seasons. So here we go. Disposals. Dusty, 22.1, best is 35. Chad Warner, 23.3, best 35. Contested possessions, Dusty 8.8, Chad 9.3. Clearances, Dusty 3.7, Chad 3.9. Inside 50s, Dusty 4.23, Chad 5.6. Tackles, Dusty 3.3, Chad 4.1. Goals, Dusty 1.5, Chad 0.9. Goal assists, Dusty 0.9, Chad 1.1. So he finishes up saying TLDR, the Chad is a better player than Dusty.
Wow.
So, yeah, when you see it like that,
wow,
it's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Mate, NJK, Nathan James King, just nailing it. That's brilliant. That's just blown my mind.
Massive shout out. Yeah. So Bretty's right. Warner is the future, and when he's doing this sort of stuff at that age, he's doing, Dusty stuff, and arguably better, as we've just found out. Then I guess that need to try and find that, as Jules saying, X factor player in the likes of Dusty, DeGoey, Petrarca, et cetera, Cripps, is not as much, because we're just watching this guy evolve each week, and he's going to have, there's going to be highs and lows, but yeah, he's just showing so much potential and so exciting for a Swans fan, I think. And a lot of people are saying Corey Warner is even better than him. So
and the younger one's even better again, apparently. So
they just keep getting better, do they?
Yeah, apparently they do.
The younger they get.
Yeah. So
well, let's hope we can just keep getting Warners through the red and white. But they made a lot of it. Obviously, local Fremantle boy beating Fremantle at home. So, I don't know. Maybe they'll come for him hard at some point. But hopefully we can look after him and he can look after us. So, awesome game, Chad. Cheers, mate. All right, we better get on to Gordon, because we've given Chad a fair run there. So, I mean, we've already spoken about Gordon in the favourite moments, but. I mean, what do you say? What do you say?
The game plan that we had and we're expecting to execute. So, finding pockets of players, kind of moving into space. That was exactly Gordon's kind of game. Like his beautiful kick that he has, just being able to wait to right into the right spot perfectly, just fed into what he needed to do. And thankfully he stepped up and did exactly that. And he was such a massive, massive part of this win, not just for the goals that he scored, but also not only from just the scoring involvements that he actually added in, 5 extra scoring involvements as well. But they were active involvements. They weren't hand pass over to someone and then they kind of got through. They were like nailing someone on the chest on a kick or putting them into space and whatnot, forcing the forward into a position to score from. And so it was just huge, man. Like, I'd probably say best game yet, but then I do recall him playing some just absolutely incredible games in his 2-year career, not even 2 years, less than 2-year career. And to see this, wow, man, he's a little bit unlucky not to get 3 points, but the Chad just put on an absolute beast mode effort to get all 3 points. So Gordon had to do what he did and gets his 2 points, but a well-deserved 2 points, mate. Just incredible.
And just going back to Chad, I can't help myself. Just the way he turned it on when we needed to, from second quarter onwards, it was just, and people have isolated the stats per quarter, but he really stepped up when we needed to. But back to obviously Errol, Bretty say his boot's ridiculous. He's got just a fantastic kick. Was it the Demons game that he kicked the goal?
Yes,
and sort of got us ahead with about 5 to go or whenever it was.
Yep.
So massive clutch kick in that moment then against the D's at the MCG. Similarly, that goal that his when was it? I guess his second goal, perhaps. But
second goal in the fourth quarter,
yeah, in the fourth, just showed that he's just got just such great composure for a young man. And, 23 disposals, 18 kicks, 2 goals, one behind, 5 inside 50s. As you said, 5 score involvements, all impactful. He was just impactful. I think that's the word. Like, he was just, and I think probably, he burst out of the blocks last year and probably a bit more so than both, Campbell and Logan for sure. But then also, he probably arguably had a better year than Warner last year. But then, we're seeing the flip side of that this year, and Errol's sort of just playing his role. But every now and then we know what he can do. Like we can see what his abilities. And
it wasn't just defensively either. It was in defense. He was great on tackles, pressure. He took a couple of marks against even a 2-on-1. One thing I noticed about this game I was going to bring up here today was that he's not a big fella. So granted, but if there's someone remotely within an inch or two of him, he seems to get the better of him in terms of body positioning. So I think he's just a well-versed football player with a lot of with an insane amount of experience under his belt, considering he's only just turned 20. And so it's just great. Yeah, he's just been a highlight for this year, and he's only had a couple of moments where it's been a bit rough, but it's just been overall good, and just excited to watch him play. And the whole competition knows that he's up there. And I think was it last week that we brought up as well that in terms of AFL stats and AFL ratings, he's the number 1 player for his age group. So just a whole bunch of things we can say about him, but this game was just showcased his skill set and what we're expecting hopefully for the next 10-15 years, I think.
Oh, Errol. What a legend.
Errol.
All right. Let's get on to Millsy because, he's just Mr. Dependable. As Freddie said, bloody consistent, solid machine, such a good captain. How were his numbers? I mean, he just kind of had a good, solid game, didn't he? Just
a good, solid Millsy game. High on tackles, 9 tackles, best on ground, 26 disposals, second for the Swannies. Like, he two-way player, does it in defence, does it around the ball. He's just strong, just really, 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 really strong. He did roll up back a couple of times during the game to kind of stem the flow, and then when they started getting the ball movement a bit better, and he did a great job of just slowing it down, and then just making his impact around the ball as he typically does. And he became famous for it in his younger days when he started tagging blokes, and even this year tagging blokes like Tom Mitchell, and then putting on a bunch of touches himself. It's just Millsy. Like, he's kind of falling into the Parker trap, which is like he's so good and so consistent that if he's not getting himself 25 touches, we're like, oh, is he okay? Like, no, he's perfectly fine. He's actually nailing it. He's doing exactly his role, and he's consistent as hell, and he hits the scoreboard every now and then. So big Millsy game, big Millsy game.
We'll talk about total tackles in the preview, actually, because there's a few really good tacklers in both, obviously the Swans and the Crows. So we'll just remember to talk about that. But honourable mentions, mate, we had a couple. Obviously, we could probably talk about pretty much the whole team. But who have we isolated here? We've got a list. Lloyd, Fox, Clark, Parker, Stevens. So who do you want to have a chat about, mate?
I'll just quickly bring up Lloydie, 25 disposals, 22 of them kicks, so he was a big part of that change in game plan. He's an effective kicker, and he was showcasing it and seemed to get a little bit free, which is good because as we've seen, when he gets a bit free, he seems to put on a bit more. On him, he wasn't expected to do too much on defence, and it kind of he rolled into his natural offensive role, which was very, very nice. 13 marks, best on ground with Foxy, so that was huge. Who would you want to take from this list?
I'll take Foxy if you don't mind. Like, cool. I just thought. I think I texted the group early. Like, I was just like, he just looked very sharp, and he's so strong, and he's such a good runner. And I think it was his best game for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Really, really good kicking, 7 intercepts, 4 disposals, 92% efficiency. Just and that cute sign from his family, fantastic, Mr. Fox. Afterwards, actually talking of the footage, going down to the rooms afterwards, how good was that hug that Horse gave Chad?
Find yourself someone who loves you as much as Horse loves Chad. Oh my goodness!
Teacher's pet.
Didn't you want to be there? Just getting involved and getting that hug in. Oh mate.
Oh, big time.
Great to see.
Big time. Sorry, I went back to Chad again.
We're back to Chad.
Sorry, Foxy. I just thought, no, Fox has come back into the team. Maybe some fans questioned it, but I think that people are they have short memories when it comes to Fox, because I think he's been such a performer over the time we've had him, and for a player to sort of be delisted, relisted, the way that he kind of has is, I don't think it really. It's not really like I think he's a very, very good player, and he's a role player, but he actually can, when he cuts loose, he can really provide a different, something different for us. And I thought, this game against the Dockers, that was there with Foxy. So just shout out.
Did you notice he was coming up quite high on the wing? And so I like that. He's a big runner. He can take up a lot of the ground, and so I like that. I was a big fan of that.
Yeah, it looked good, and it worked quite well a few times. So go with it.
Yeah.
All right, mate. Go for it. Clarkie Parker Stevens.
I'm going to go for Clark. Slowed Jordan Clark right down. I wouldn't say removed him, but definitely removed his effectiveness. Forced him to make a lot of kicks, slowed him right down, didn't have as much effectiveness that we expect him to have as he probably wanted to have, all the while having 92% efficiency, 12 disposals and 4 tackles for Clarkie himself, and having a couple of shots on goal that, although it didn't go through, at least he had those cracks at goal. So Clarkie, another great game. It seems like there's always a role for him depending on who you play in the matchup, but all in all, it looks like he's taken that small forward role because he's being effective, and he's doing the job, mate. Doing the job.
We'll come back to him in the preview because if we roll with him again, it's going to be interesting to see who he gets. But I think, was it Lloydie or Matthew Lloyd saying that he's our secret weapon, or someone had said that. I
think it was Lloydie. Yeah,
Lloyd. Yeah, so. I think, I don't know if he's a secret weapon, but I think he's performing a role really, really well. We called out Clark on Clark last week on the potty, mate, so we'll tick that one off. I'll tell you what, we've got an ongoing hand in Clark's performance here. So guy owes us a couple of furfies, I'll tell you what. But
we had a fair few furfies at the time that we'd spoken to him. But,
we did. We probably owe him a few furfies. I'll touch on Stevens. I thought he had. I thought he looked good. He's doing just a body of work for running. He's just his number of sprints, his average speed, his total distance is it's getting like he's starting to really cut loose. And that's I made a comment a few weeks ago that he's basically like. He's that same mould of player as Ed Langdon, but he probably just doesn't have his confidence yet. And it's his 3rd or 4th game in a row. He's not game breaking, but he's playing a role. He's running his ass off. He kicked a goal, didn't he? I just thought he's looking better for the consistent game time. So very pleasing. Nice one, Dill.
Yep, for sure. No, I totally agree. Last one I'd pick up probably is just Parker. Just very quickly, 4 clearances, 24 disposals, doing Parker things. Although un-Parkerish, only the 1 tackle. So that's way less than what I expect a Parker to get. So I've rewatched the game tonight, had my eye on him, and I didn't necessarily see why or not, but just he's hoping that it's just didn't get the opportunities.
Millsy was hogging all the tackles.
Yeah, Millsy just being an absolute pig around the tackles. Yeah.
I'm sure Rowie didn't Rowie have 6 in 1 quarter or something?
Yeah, Rowie.
And then he finished with 7 for the game. But something I think that was this one. But mate. All right. Well, coaches' votes, as we like to read out, just to make sure that we're on the right track. Obviously, Warner got 10, Goulden got 8, Mills got 6, Griffin Logue, who did a pretty good job on Buddy, only keeping in 1, got 3. Yeah, Heaney got 2, and Papley got 1. So. Yeah, pretty accurate there, I think, mate. Well done, us. Yeah. All right. On to hot topics. How did we pull up? What changes will we make? How is the VFL? Any news in the AFLW?
Yeah, Amadi copped a knee in the back or in the shoulder from Buddy from memory, second quarter, maybe third quarter. And he came off for a little while, had it looked at, and he came straight out again. It didn't seem any problem. I saw Horse mention today that there was nothing mentioned by the medico staff, so he's going to assume that it's all clear and good. So we walked away unscathed for the week.
Yeah, nice one. Well, I mean, I think that Logan McDonald, I did watch the game, or watch the second, third, fourth quarters of that game against Southport, which was a bit greasy, and they ran away with it in the end. Unfortunately, it was like, second versus fourth. It was a pretty tight game. I think Logan looked pretty good. He was running up and down the field. I think he kicked a couple. So, depending on how Joel's shoulder is, they may look to bring him in. Probably more so than McLean, but obviously the other big name in that game was Joey Kennedy. He had like 20 odd touches, looked pretty good. And then it was just the usual suspects racking up the pill. Bell, Louis Taylor, Sheldrick looked pretty good. Sheldrick and Roberts were still looking pretty good. So yeah, look, I think that if everyone's fit.
Do we make any changes? Do you see Logan coming in over for the Adelaide or the next 3 games or so, or play the team that we have at the moment?
I don't know. I'm inclined to, like, if Joel if Party's all right, I'd probably keep him in just to reward that. Like, obviously, we've had 2 really big wins in a row, and a lot to do. Like, structure and roles has been a big part of that. From the likes of Foxy and Clark and also Amadi and even Reed to an extent. So I don't know. You tinker with one, and you can be enough to sort of destabilize the structure, the balance. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Harry Cunningham. Yeah, was he Medi-sub again?
He was Medi-sub this week, yeah.
But he didn't get on. No.
Even
with Joel's shoulder.
Joel's shoulder, it seemed like he was okay, so they kept him off. And that would have been a big dent to the structure, of course. Joel playing up forward, being a contested marker, big body fella, and Cunningham is not that guy. So it would have been interesting if that was the change and what we would have done. But so Cunningham's probably got and you got Campbell as well. They're probably the ones that are kind of sitting on the wayside waiting for another spot, another crack at it, as well as Logan McDonald. And
so if you've got this is a little bit to do with the preview as well, but Riley O'Brien is their key ruck, and I think they've got the likes of Frampton and maybe even Taylor Walker when they're up front, but chopping out the ruck. But I think that if Joel is injured, I'm just going back on what I said earlier, maybe you do bring in Hayden McLean just for that extra depth in the ruck. But yeah, I don't know. As we were saying, this is a game we can't be taking lightly. I think we need to approach it with absolute best 22, best 23 that we have available. So
if we're talking about the big fellas, then let's drop some big news. So the Swam on Twitter, the great little chatter, in quotes, you heard it here first. Will Gould plays this week. End quote. So if it does happen, we'll touch base with the Swam and just work out what is it that they know the inside, what's the inside traps. But they're hell-bent on it. And I don't know whether it comes from a place of just hope or if there's actual news in here, but good on them. I'm all for it. It's on the potty now, so if it goes pear-shaped, then we know who to blame. And it's not me.
His recent VFL form has been it's been pretty good. It's been consistently good this year. He's got one hell of a mean spoil. His fist is up there with him. I think it was Paddy McCartan did that beautiful golden fist spoil against the Dockers. But Will Gould has got an incredible spoil as well, and he was doing a fair few kick-ins, and he's got quite a boot on him. I think that I called him to make his debut against Port Adelaide, and that was because of that local connection. So, but this is a Crows in Sydney. It's possible. I just don't know who you'd be taking out.
I got thinking about
Gould.
that. How do you feel about Rampy played actually a really good game, but
Rampy played really well.
He did look laboured. So what if? And he's getting on his plus 30, the old person that is over plus 30. How do you feel about him? Maybe taking a week off just to kind of rest the body as we're rolling in deep into the finals.
Maybe that's what they know and we don't. I mean, he did look like he was beaten pretty well by Taberner a few times on the lead there, but I mean, I don't know. Is that where are we starting to do that, or I thought we'd put our best team out there, but like a bit of an in-season rest. I didn't think we'd do that, but maybe that's what they're thinking.
I didn't think so either, but I think maybe now we solidified ourselves in the top 8 anyway, because I think top 8 was a bit questionable for a few weeks.
But it's not a lock yet, though. We've still got to win 2 more games, right?
Yeah, it is. It is very much so. So I don't know. I'm going to put this down on record. Then I'm going to say if Will Good comes in, because I trust the Swamp, they would never lie to me ever. I'm going to say maybe Rampy sits out a week for a rest and take it on from there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's the logical change there. It's going to be interesting. It'd be great, like, if he does get on against another SA team, and we can play well, and then that way he sort of shows a bit to the fans and then feels like he's making a few steps forward. It's just been a slow burn for him. Obviously, it just does take some players a bit longer, but also, when you've got such a set back line as we do, it's harder to crack in. So, fingers crossed if he does get on. I hope he plays well.
He would have seen himself in the game so much faster if Paddy McCartan hadn't been the lights out back that we didn't think was going to happen. So it is what it is. So now we've got to pay Paddy. So it's going to have to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, mate. All right. How are we looking in terms of just general stuff going on in the AFL? What is the buzz controversy at the moment? High tackles.
High tackles. All right. Ginnivan has just broken the AFL by getting a couple of high tackles, and no one knows how to deal with it. God forbid, like they just deal with it and just change the rules at the end of the year. But no, leading into finals, we're going to make it really simple, everyone. We're going to change the concept of high tackles on everyone with 5 weeks to go in the regular season, just in time for a bit of controversy, and just get on with it. So, Noddy, do you reckon you could break it down a bit better than I could?
Well, I mean, I watched the video. So I've always been banging on about like how nice it would be if the AFL put a set of videos out of the contentious rules to the fans before a season to say, this is what the umpires are looking for. Now you know what they're looking for. Everyone can be on the same page. And they've finally, as you said, they've released one now at this point in the season off the back of, poor Jack Ginnivan. But basically the way I can see it is if you drop, shrug or lift your arm, then it's play on. So it's the person being tackled can't, like those things that sort of they're sort of flags for that you're staging for it, basically, as far as I understand.
Yeah, I read that the same. The other thing to consider is that if it's a front-on contact, so just for instance, if you imagine you're going to get the ball, you picked up the ball and someone's tackled you head on, and they've done it lazy and hit you in the head, that is a legitimate head high tackle, and that's something they want to protect. So if you're grabbing the ball, running out with the possession of it, they expect the onus is on the tackler to get around the tackler rather than being head on and just smash them in the head or the neck along the way. So I don't know. There's a table that I've seen going around that's explaining it.
Yep, I've got it here, mate. If you want me to
go for it, yeah.
So high tackle or play on. So where the tackle is reasonably applied and the ball carrier is responsible for the high contact via shrug, drop, arm lift or duck, play on should be called. But as you said, if there's front on, head down over the ball, trying to gain possession, that's a free kick for high tackle. As long as the tackler's on the move, they like to qualify things, don't they?
Just to make it a bit simpler, yeah.
Ducking, if you elect to drop the head from a higher position, you must successfully dispose of the ball, otherwise it's holding the ball. But then these are the three. It's drive, shrug, or drop. So if a player leads with the head and moves into a tackler who is stationary or near near stationary. They have to successfully dispose of the ball, otherwise it's holding the ball. Then shrug, so a tackle around the shoulder area, and then the arm pushes the tackler's arm into a high tackle scenario. That's play on. Similarly, if a player drops to their knees to get that sort of body height differential, that's play on as well.
Yeah, the old Selwood move. This is what's really made me kind of mad. Selwood's been doing this his entire career. He's made a career off it. He's copped a lot of concussions that are not called concussions. He's had a lot of strapping on his head. I've seen it. I've been there. And they're going to have the nerve to say it was Jack Ginnivan that pushed this into the forefront. Like, we've been watching Selwood get concussed and bleeding on a regular basis, almost every single game he's ever played in his career. And it was never a thing. It was like, oh yeah, Selwood copped another free because he just threw his head into someone's elbow because he's got a head like a rock and he just gets on with it. And now it's a thing. So it's just, look, I'm all in all glad with the rule change. I think the rule change makes sense. I do. But I think it's just a bit mean to our old Jack Ginnivan to have to cop it all.
I think our Errol Goulden's pretty good at it as well, but he's he's shorter to start with. But Steve-O so from Steve-O's point of view, he says, I don't really have a problem with it. Evasion skills are an important part of the game. Smaller players have got to do what they can with the cards they get dealt. Steve-O's not an overly tall guy, so he's probably feeling understanding what they're going through. But so he also says many of these commentators that are complaining about it, they're all key forwards, so they won their ball in the air and on the lead. They don't know jack about fighting for it on the ground.
That was a great point of him. And then we started rattling off a few of the commentators that are all full forwards, right? And oh God, where's that list? We started going
Brownie, Rewalt, Dunstan, Carey, Taylor.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's all there.
Lyon,
and then he
Pavlich,
also says
Brereton, Richo,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, overrepresented.
As overrepresented as white middle-aged men in Parliament. Like that's a great line. And
classic Steve.
Classic Steve. The forwards are just the big forward, power forwards have just got the run of the media, which is a bit frustrating for a bunch of reasons. But the rule makes sense. The changes make sense in my eyes. I'm not a big fan of doing it so close to finals and just giving more fuel to what's going to be an angry mob every time that something's kind of not called right. It is what it is.
Twice this year, Chris. So the dissent rule, where the fans just said, "What are you doing?" and they got rid of it, basically.
Yeah. Or
they've toned it down, and now someone's complaining. So they've done this with five rounds to go before the finals. It's
the initial rule that makes no sense. So it's just some of the things that are not the one. For instance, the dissent rule is fine now. It's like, okay, if you put up your hands, go, what was that? And that's fine now. But if you scream some swearing abuse at the umpire, they're going to call it. They should have been doing that since day one, right? And that makes sense. So that rule's kind of come into it. It's kind of fallen into like a position where it's now no longer a hot topic every single week, and that's a good thing. But I guess maybe with these high tackles, I don't see the representation of this tackle and the interpretation of the tackle is going to be done on a bang play. It's going to be very hard for the umpire. Dissent rule is straightforward. You saw someone say something, you've got a few moments to react to it. In fact, you've got a little bit of time to react to it, and the umpire can react to it as they see fit. And you're not there. There's no microphones in the player for you to make sense of it. So, but the high tackle is going to be one that everyone can scrutinize now. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just something that didn't necessarily need to change now. That's kind of my point.
I guess they're just going to have to look out for that arm that guides the tackler's shoulder into their head.
Yeah,
so
Cozzy Pickett's
you see it. You do see it.
Yeah.
Cozzy Pickett did it and got away with it, and that was part of the video, the explanatory video. Anyway, we should probably move on. So I don't know what happened with Rex Hunt. Obviously his brain broke and he complained about Daisy, and then Derm Brereton's come out and basically backed him up.
So like
I don't really know the context, but
the basic context is that Rex Hunt believes that maybe Daisy Pearce is taking too much of the limelight away from Wayne Carey during during course, which is an absolute joke because she doesn't get a word in Edgeway, and what she says is way more impactful and makes way more sense than whatever Wayne Carey's saying at any one given time. And they obviously had not been getting the kind of feedback and response from the community as they thought they were, and so they roll out another dinosaur in Dermy Brereton to suggest the exact same thing. And once again, the community's just going, "Shut the hell up, Derek." What are you talking about?
I that's where I came in at that point with that quote from Brereton, and I tagged you in something, and there was a lot of like white angry dudes with some casual sexism, and it was just like I bit and had a couple of fights with some trolls, but I love Daisy. I think she's like one of the best commentators they have. I think she's like, for me, it's like her, Hodgie, Richo. And I know Wayne Carey's been a bit shit, but he's not a bad commentator. He's way better than like BT and
BT's
JB
brutal.
and Hudson and Hamish McLaughlin and all those guys. Like, they're all pretty stupid. But and even Brereton, I don't think he's that good. I think he's a shit commentator.
So bad. He is really, really bad. Like, he doesn't say anything of any substance, and he's always talking about something that happened in the last quarter. And you're like, mate, we've moved on from that. Like, are you still talking about it? Like, and then it might bring up a story about something that he did during his playing games. It's like, it's been a long time, Brereton. Like, don't get me wrong, your career is storied, and I love watching some of the stuff on YouTube when you're just going absolutely ballistic, and it's good fodder and it's fun. But that doesn't mean that you need a microphone near you. And I think that's where we stand in some of these things. You don't need a microphone on these blokes. I think it's okay to let them just disappear into the limelight and get some professional guys coming around, or girls in this instance, for sure.
Yeah. Every time he calls the Swans, he lets everyone know his hand in Hayden McLean's development. So I guess we got him to thank for that, but other than that, it's all pretty standard. I mean, he's not like BT where he just plain gets the players' names wrong, like multiple times throughout the game. It's like, you got one job, mate. And I'm sure he's a lovely dude, but he is just, how does he have a job?
You know, there's a producer with a piece of paper in front of him, just like going, just read this piece of paper, and he's just refusing to, or he's just giving up on it.
It reminds me of the scene from The Office, the American one, where like Michael Scott's on the phone and he's talking to Dwight, and there's like Dwight's trying to tell him something and he's just not picking it up. And then both Pam and Ryan are like writing down, like, this is what he means, like tapping the paper saying, like, this is, you know, that was a very detailed and very niche analogy there. But yeah, that reminds me of that. You can imagine they're just trying to guide him to say the right thing. But are they, though? Because he just keeps saying the wrong thing.
Maybe they just enjoy him doing that. I don't know. Maybe it's more entertaining when he's getting it wrong. If he was just nailing it, then there'd be nothing to talk about, perhaps. And just to make matters even worse, they just go, you know what, BT, you're not done now. Here's a microphone. Go down to the change rooms and talk to some poor kids for a while. Just embarrass yourself for a little bit.
I'll tell you what, I think he's better at that than calling the game. So,
and that's saying something, because he's pretty bad at that. Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
All right, mate. How are we with AFLW? Where are we up to there?
Yeah, look, AFLW is kind of knuckling down for the season start, so it's just about 6 weeks to go before we kick off, so that's damn exciting. I haven't seen a whole lot going on, so I'm presuming that they've just locked themselves into training and, getting structure and some training into it, but there's a few stories heading around. But one exciting thing, Donny Hess, if for some of the people out there that may not know, I did mention his name a couple of weeks back, just after the buy round, and we've actually done an interview with him. Now, he's an American fella. He's the coach of the Des Moines Roosters AFL club over there in America. And he is a lovely guy, loves his football, knows his football very well, and he's got some fantastic content out there in terms of podcasts and whatnot. And he's actually got a couple of really great interviews with some AFLW people, and he's just hinted at being out. He just interviewed in the last day or so a AFL star. So if you want to learn more, make sure you follow him or even reach out to us and we'll point you in his direction. But Donny is doing some great stuff out there, so go out there, support him. He's a good bloke.
Awesome. All right, mate. Have you got anything else in hot topics before we move on to preview?
Yeah, one quick one. Hello to TJ on Insta. Thanks for reaching out and showing support for the potty. It's really nice of you. And Noddy actually came down for the Bulldogs game to the SCG, and I unfortunately missed the message, so we weren't able to say hello and catch up because it would have been great to meet her. But yeah, sorry for that. And she actually touched base with us because she was happy with the fact that we'd mentioned that the loss to the Bombers was probably the most deflating game we've seen, or the angriest we'd been for some time, because she felt the same way and she wanted to let us know. So it's nice of her to say so. So yeah, finals down in Melbourne. TJ, we'll be catching up. So thanks so much for reaching out.
Awesome. All right, mate. Let's cast our eyes forward to the upcoming week and have a quick look at this Adelaide game. So they are coming 16th on 5 wins and 12 losses. They have beaten Port Adelaide, Richmond, Western Bulldogs, West Coast Eagles, and North Melbourne Kangaroos. So, they're those 3 teams in that middle bracket. They're decent teams, so they've played some good footy. They're obviously a young team as well. What's Matty Nix in his second or third year? So they're sort of, in a bit of a rebuild as well. They've had a couple of high draft picks the past couple of years, but nevertheless, we're 3 wins from our last 5 this year. And as Jules has pointed out, coming off back-to-back wins, first time since the bye round. Adelaide is 1 from the last 5, and they've lost the last 3 in a row. And funnily enough, this game against the Swans will be the 3rd game against bird teams. I think they played the Pies and then the Hawks, and then they played
Swannies.
And then they play us. Yeah, so there you go. We have won 2 of our previous 3 games against them, with our last loss coming in 2019. Adelaide, and this is the kicker, I think this is really the important point. Adelaide's coming first in the league for tackles. We mentioned earlier we'd reference this part. First in the league for tackles, whereas Sydney's coming 4th. That we started higher and we've dropped off. But Adelaide's also 3rd for inside 50 tackles, whereas we're 10th. So I can't see this as being anything other than a game of pressure. I think it's going to be a bit of a slog. When we look at just last week alone, Rory Laird, their gun player, really broke the VFL AFL record for most tackles in a game with 20 in the game. Overtook our Jude Bolton, who was equal first on 19 with some other floozies. But so he's actually coming equal first with Matt Rowell. This is Rory Laird, I mean. But Sam Berry, who's an up-and-coming mid for the Crows, is coming 3rd on 118, which is massive. He's beating Millsy, who's 4th, by 6, and Millsy's on 112. Our next Swan in the top 10 is Rowie. I think he's on about 97 or 98. So there's a lot of good tacklers in these 2 teams. So I see it sort of playing out like that. Other than that, mate, who are their danger players? Who do we need to really be wary of?
Well, we've got I don't know if you've heard of this player. His name was Jordan Dawson. He used to play one of the Eastern State teams, and he went over there. Hang on. So
you've got a note here in this next section saying "Don't boo Jordan Dawson."
I've actually got,
I've already started
in the one last things. Just a spoiler for everyone. I have "Don't boo Jordan Dawson," and Noddy's putting underneath that. Yeah, right. So, so he's obviously an absolute danger player. He literally have won a couple of games of himself, and he's being touted as the next captain at Adelaide, and that's just just good to see from someone who kind of loved him once upon a time to see him doing well, I guess, for someone else. But he's grand. Walker has been finding some form as well of time. Big Tex coming back off his internal suspension, and as an AFL-driven suspension from memory. I can't remember who was suspending him, but someone bloody was, and for good reason. And so he's starting to find some form, and so the matchup on him is going to be interesting. Although he's not a big runner, he's a big body. So you may be thinking of a Paddy or a Tom McCartan on the bloke. As you mentioned there, Laird, Brodie Smith, Doty, these are young talent that have proven at some point in their very, very young careers that they have a name about them. So they've, as you've been mentioning, the tackle pressure is a big part of their game, and so it'd be a good opportunity for us to basically test out what the team looks like getting under that much pressure in our forwards and what we do with that. I see a big game from Papley ahead of us. I see potentially a couple of goals from Heaney, maybe scrambling a bit. So let's see where we go with that and what we can do with it. What do you think? Who do you think Clark sits on?
Yeah, I mean that's the question. I think it's got to be Dawson, right? Although there is a bit of Ryan Clark's 185, 186, and Dawson's that taller player. He was that hybrid, can almost do anything at 191, 92. So if they do have him off the halfback, which is where they've played in this year, you'd have to say Ryan Clark gets him because that's kind of what he's been doing in the past 2-3 weeks, right? So 3 weeks, right? So Jack Sinclair, Bailey, Dale or Smith or one of the Baileys, and then last week Jordan Clark. So I'd have to say Dawson. If not, Brodie Smith is a bit of a danger player for them. Sort of can run with it off the wing. So I think it just depends who's cutting loose a bit more. Other than that, Keys is a really good player for them. He's that sort of feel-good story for them. He's probably been a bit down on his output of last year, but he's still a massive contributor. Berry, as we've already mentioned, he's basically their row bottom, that sort of player. So, and young Thilthorpe as well, who's sort of coming into some form. He's a high draft pick. He's really starting to he's the guy they've been playing in the ruck. Sorry, he's the guy that's backing up Riley O'Brien. So he's pretty tall. I think he's over 200 centimetres. But as we've seen, Reedy can mix it with the best of him. If he doesn't win the tap, then he's going to come down and meet him for the tackle. So I'm not too worried there. Yeah, Jordan Dawson. Are you really not going to boo him? I'm definitely going to boo him.
No, look, I don't feel it is what it is. Like he wanted money, and Parker just seemed to take a bigger slice of the pie than we expected, and I think that's just why he kind of.
I don't know. It was the about face that pissed me off. I'm not going anywhere. It's all good, and then a couple of months later, I'm out.
Don't get me wrong. I'm pretty red faced. I did a big post and a big and it was a very successful post on Twitter, on Instagram of when I presumed he was going to sign, and then crickets for freaking 2-3 months before he then leaves for Adelaide. So I've got just as much annoyance as anyone else, but I'm not a big fan of booing ex-players just because they decide to play for someone else. It is what it is. That's just football.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. I just think we've got more reason to boo him than Essendon did Luke Parker in his 250th. So, but anyway,
if you're going to put it in that context, Noddy, boo away. But no, there's no need for that either. No.
I'm giving you scales of booing and detailed criteria, and
we'll put it together in some kind of chart of booing acceptance or something. Chris's booing acceptance chart of memory. I don't know.
I look forward to it, mate, because I'm an active booer. All right. Well, I think that brings us. So obviously, it's a must-win game. We can't take it lightly. They could come out and absolutely tackle us into the ground. So this is just. I'm very, very nervous. As always, I'm reluctant to give the tip, but. Hopefully it's we get some good weather. It's raining again in Sydney, so it's a Saturday afternoon game. So hopefully it's nice, and hopefully we can play some good footy. But
mate, at this point, I'm bringing my mum. So let's see whether she is the good news that we're all hoping for, and then if so, then she's getting a membership and she's being forced to come to every game. So let's see what we are.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I saw that vid for that interview, the halftime report with your dad.
Dad's hopeless.
Pretty clueless.
What do you say? He's like, at this point, the Swans are losing. And I was like, thanks, Dad, for your analysis. Useless.
That reminds me, mate, we've got to get some tickets for Superfan Jules.
Superfan Jules, part of Bevy, and of course, Steve, original Bev himself. So,
he's back from Finland. So he's coming to some games with his old man and his brother.
It's going to be the first time
the trumper.
that all of us are together in one place ever. In fact, it's going to be the first time that a couple of us have met each other. So that's going to be quite exciting, actually.
The planets aligned. We're also, mate Pratik is coming along before he was there last week, but he's he's moving on to greener pastures. So it's going to be quite a turnout. We've actually got to hop online and buy some tickets tomorrow, mate. So it's hopefully going to be a good turnout, and fingers crossed, because this is one we really would like to bank, but we cannot take lightly, because that's when we drop our guard and don't play well. So hopefully we don't do that. Keep it together, boys. We're almost there.
That's it.
All right, mate. Well, have you got... the one last thing was don't boo Jordan Dawson.
Don't boo Jordan Dawson. On behalf of the bevy, don't get me wrong. You can do what you're going to do. Everyone's a supporter in their own ways, but I personally don't like it. So
what about this then? I used to call him Awesome Dawson. What if I call him Not So Awesome Dawson?
Even if you get a sign that says that, that's acceptable. I'll take that. I'll slide that. That's fine.
All right. No booing, but I can put a cynical sign up.
You can put a cynical sign up. You can even have his head with like little devil horns and like a moustache in it, all that typical stuff. That's fine. And we'll get on the news and get some airtime. I'm okay with all of that. It's fine.
Think of the what's that type of house they have there in Adelaide? Is it bluestone?
Oh, good.
Limestone, bluestone. They got those beautiful old houses. Think of the cash he's spending in SA. It goes a lot further than Sydney. I can tell you that.
He's probably bought a chunk of Adelaide at this point. Like, who knows?
He's got a winery. He's bought a vineyard.
He's got a vineyard, and he's going to be the next mayor, like Lingy in Geelong. He's going to be the mayor of Adelaide soon enough.
Not so awesome, Dawson. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode. So on behalf of the bevy, I'd like to say thank you to all you Cygnets and Swanlings out there for listening in. Make sure to keep following us on Instagram and Facebook at A Bevy of Bloods for various content, updates and announcements. Until then, up the Bloods.
Can you Swannies?